I, 34 male, spent 7 years building a life I thought was solid. I'm a senior project manager in commercial construction. It's a lot of long hours, dirt, and stress, but it pays well. My wife, 32 female, and I started with nothing, but as I moved up, things changed. I became the provider, and she became a creative who spent my money on hobbies that never turned into jobs. The trouble started when she began complaining about our boring life. She'd spend all day on Instagram looking at influencers in Europe and then look at me like I was a piece of furniture. I ignored the red flags until 3 months ago. I came home after a 14-hour shift to a cold house. She was on the couch with a glass of expensive wine, looking at her phone. She didn't even look up when she told me she couldn't do this anymore. She said she was young, beautiful, and wasting her prime on my beige life. She said, "I deserve better than this boring life with you." I didn't even argue. I just looked at her and said, "You absolutely do." She was shocked I didn't beg her to stay. She told me she already had someone else lined up, a vibrant guy who understood her. She demanded a divorce and said she wanted half of everything. I told her we'd make sure she got exactly what she deserved. Here's what she forgot. She wasn't just creative. She was reckless. 2 years ago, she opened an art gallery that flopped in 6 months. I had made her sign all the business loans and personal guarantees in her name only because I didn't want my construction assets tied to her artistic whims. I also had my premarital inheritance and my first house's equity locked in an ironclad domestic asset protection trust, DAPT, way before we hit our 5-year anniversary. I moved to a hotel and called my lawyer. I told him to give her exactly what the law required for her specific liabilities. Within days, she showed her true colors. She drained our joint account of $14,000, spent $5,000 on a shark lawyer, and took the SUV, which was actually a company lease from my firm. When my lawyer sent over the initial financial disclosures, her vibrant life hit a wall. Since our state allows debt from failed individual business ventures to be assigned to the spouse who ran them, and because my main assets were in a trust, her half looked like a nightmare. Her lawyer called mine, frantic, asking where the house equity was. There wasn't any for her. The house was bought with a bridge loan from my family trust, creating a lien that predated our marriage's appreciation. The paperwork showed she was responsible for 50% of our modest household debt and 100% of her $210,000 gallery debt. I sent her a courier package with no letter, just an application for a 400-square-foot studio apartment in a bad part of town, and a highlighter over the security deposit amount. That's when the dirty tricks started. She realized she wasn't getting a payday, so she went nuclear. She filed a motion claiming I coerced her into signing the gallery loans and that I was financially abusive. She even called for a wellness check, telling the cops I was acting erratically and she was scared. I just showed the officers my porch security footage of her laughing while she packed her bags to go meet her boyfriend. They left within minutes. Then she tried to get me fired. She emailed my HR department claiming I used company funds for our vacations. My CEO called me in, but I was ready. I showed him my personal bank statements proving that every single cent of personal spending on the corporate card was reimbursed within 24 hours. I kept those receipts because I knew her spending was a liability. I decided to stop being fair. 5 years ago, we bought a cabin. She insisted her parents co-sign since my credit was tied up in a big project. Her parents always looked down on me as a glorified foreman. I simply stopped paying the mortgage on that cabin. Since her parents were the primary guarantors, the bank started crawling down their necks. Her dad called me screaming about their legacy and credit scores. I just told him his daughter wanted adventure, and paying for a cabin we don't use felt too predictable. At the temporary support hearing, she played the victim. She walked in wearing black like she was at a funeral, dabbing at fake tears. Her lawyer gave a speech about how I was strangling her financially. My lawyer just handed over a USB drive. It was a nanny cam recording from our living room. It wasn't just the night she dumped me. It was a week earlier, where she was on the phone with her mom saying, "I'm going to bleed him dry. I'll just tell the judge he forced me to sign those papers." Once I get the house and alimony, we're moving to Florida. He's too stupid to see it coming. The judge's face turned into granite. He didn't just deny her spousal support, he ordered her to return the $14,000 she swiped from the joint account within 30 days. She had one last card to play. She claimed I had a secret cash business and demanded a forensic audit. I agreed, but only if we audited her gallery too. She turned white. See, she had been reporting her designer clothes and her boyfriend's travel as gallery installations to the IRS. When the court-appointed auditor started digging, they found massive tax fraud in her separate business filings. The vibrant boyfriend? He was a career con artist who had been coaching her on how to hide assets. As soon as he realized there was no money, he bolted. He took the SUV she had borrowed. I had already reported it stolen. He got pulled over 3 states away with substances and the last of her cash. To save himself, he gave a statement saying she gave him the car and money to help her hide assets from the court. At the final settlement meeting, she was a mess. Her parents were there, looking like they'd aged a decade because the bank had officially foreclosed on their cabin. Her dad begged me to give her the house, so they could use the equity to save their retirement. I just slid the auditor's report across the table. I told her that her creative accounting was tax fraud, and since those were her independent filings, I wasn't liable for any of it. I told her I wouldn't report her to the DA myself, but the IRS would find her eventually. Her lawyer basically forced her to sign the quitclaim deed right there. She got 100% of the debt, 0 assets, and a studio apartment. She called me a monster as she signed. I told her I'm just a project manager. I saw a problem, and I managed it. A few months later, she called me from a burner phone. The studio was infested, she had no heat, and the IRS was breathing down her neck. Her parents wouldn't talk to her because she'd ruined them. She begged to stay in one of my spare bedrooms for a few weeks. I just asked her if she remembered the night. She said she deserved better. I told her to call her vibrant boyfriend and hung up. The last time I saw her, I was doing a site visit for a new high-rise project downtown. She was working in a greasy spoon diner across the street, serving coffee to guys in muddy boots. She looked tired and broken. I didn't wave. I just looked at my blueprints and kept moving. I sold the old house and moved to the coast. My life is boring in the best way possible. Quiet, stable, and completely mine. She wanted a life of adventure, and now she's got a lifelong battle with the IRS and a pile of debt to keep her busy. If you think she finally got the adventure she deserved, maybe subscribe, unless you're too bored by stories where the guy who actually works for